It is said that NVIDIA AI chips make money. How much money do you actually make? Last year, domestic companies couldn't even afford the H100 AI chip that they longed for. Lao Huang's external pricing is $35,000, converted to nearly 250,000 RMB. It's worth the cost of a GG7 sedan. Do you know how much Lao Huang can earn in extreme situations? $32,000. The hardware cost is only $3,000. The gross profit margin exceeds 90%. What is included in the specific cost of these $3,000? Divided into 4 parts: core GPU, storage chip, advanced packaging, PCB board and other materials. How much does the core GPU chip cost? According to the data disclosed by TSMC, about $200. How much does advanced packaging cost? Because it involves special processes. About $700. The technical content of PCB boards and other auxiliary materials is not high. All kinds of devices add up to about $500. Be careful, after calculating so much cost, not including storage chips, because this part is the most expensive. How expensive is it? There are 6 storage chips on an H100 board. The cost of one is about $240 or more. 6 of them add up to exactly around $1,500. That is to say, the cost of storage chips accounts for half of the total cost of an H100. I have introduced before, the storage chip of AI chip uses High Bandwidth Memory HBM. It is also a branch of DRAM memory. Generally speaking, there are 3 types of memory. One is used by computers, that is, memory modules. One type is used for mobile phones, mobile LPDDR, Chinese name, low power memory. The last one is used for AI chips, that is HBM. Among the 3 types of chips, the process difficulty of High Bandwidth Memory HBM is the highest, the most difficult to develop. Our country's Hefei Changxing. Last year, fiber optic was able to produce Elder 5. It has already been used in Xiaomi, Huawei, Creative and other domestic brand mobile phones, but there is little external promotion on HBM. The main technical difficulty of this product is that it is quite difficult to manufacture. The process is similar to building a building, similar to stacking multiple DRAM chips vertically. It is also necessary to be able to accurately transmit signal instructions. Everything about current needs to be redesigned, and it needs to be precisely docked together. Previously, the GPU and memory in AI chips were individually packaged. It transmits signals through circuits between PCB boards, but doing so will encounter issues with memory walls, the so-called memory wall. Simply put, there is not enough memory available. In the past decade or so, everyone has put in a lot of effort, continuously improving GPU, CPU performance. The ability to process data is becoming stronger and stronger, but the matching memory performance did not improve. What are the consequences of this? Like a flour production factory, you have a huge production line, having the ability to produce a large amount of flour in a short period of time, but encountered trouble, the shortage of raw materials. There is too little wheat stored in the barn, and the barn is far from the factory. Vehicles need to transport back and forth. Transportation alone doesn't count. The road between the 2 places is still narrow and bumpy. So, what to do if you want to increase flour production? The answer is to expand the storage capacity of the barn and build the barn right next to the factory. The design of High Bandwidth Memory HBM is based on the previous idea. How to do it? First, expand the memory. Stack several DRAM chips together. Secondly, these bare chips are packaged together with GPU bare chips, becoming a big chip. Data permeability. The processing efficiency has been greatly improved now that we can achieve such precise packaging on public information. TSMC is doing the best. A process called CoWoS was used. At the wafer level, the HBM wafer and GPU wafer are integrated, joined together. Finally, achieve fast communication between the two. Actually, Samsung, Intel also has a similar process, but the interconnection effect between bare films is not very good. None of them have TSMC's mature and solid technology. HBM has been developed for 5 generations so far. They are HBM, HBM2, HBM2E, HBM3, HBM3E. Last August, NVIDIA's GH200 has stronger performance than the H100. We are using the 5th generation HBM3E, provided by SK hynix from South Korea. Someone asked, what about Samsung's aesthetics? Can't we provide it? Yes. Last year, these two companies were unable to mass produce the 5th generation HBM, and the HBM global market. SK hynix alone holds a 50% share. Why is this Korean company so powerful? The reason is also simple. The research and development started relatively early. This matter is quite dramatic to say. How to say it? As we all know, in the field of graphics cards, AMD is the second son of a millennium. In order to surpass NVIDIA, put a lot of effort into technology. In 2009, AMD realizes the limitations of regular memory. The idea of stacked memory emerged. At that time, we found SK hynix, a memory manufacturer from South Korea. Both parties collaborate on research and development. After nearly 4 years of research, two companies have launched the first generation of high-bandwidth memory HBM. At that time, AMD's idea was, use it on your own gaming graphics card. Improve performance, suppress a wave of NVIDIA. Unexpectedly, the cost of this thing is surprisingly high. It simply cannot be popularized on consumer-grade graphics cards. It's like using an ox knife to kill a chicken. There is not much cost-effectiveness. The East is not bright, and the West is bright. In 2016, AlphaGo defeated top professional chess player Li Shishi. Deep learning is booming. This is an artificial intelligence algorithm. Through massive data training, let computers think like humans. Judgment, decision-making. The more data is trained, the higher the accuracy of decision-making. This means that computing chips need to withstand a huge amount of data transparency, so HBM came into play. In 2017, AlphaGo once again competes against Chinese chess player Qi Ji. This time, AlphaGo used Google's TPU. A processor specifically designed for deep learning uses high-bandwidth memory HBM this time. Meanwhile, NVIDIA has launched a heavyweight PE version, adopting the second-generation high-bandwidth memory HBM2. The reason why Lao Huang did this, I also saw the huge data throughput of HBM. I believe it can bring earth-shattering changes to artificial intelligence computing, anticipating the enormous prospects of HBM. Samsung, also a memory giant. Nature will not miss the opportunity. We have also invested in research and development. Samsung's movements are very fast. In 2016, HBM2 was launched. NVIDIA's AI chip P100 uses Samsung's products. In contrast, the beautiful movements are relatively slow. Started researching HBM in 2018. HBM2 was only mass-produced in 2020. However, as a pioneer in HBM technology, SK hynix's progress has always been steadily leading. The third-generation HBM2E was released in 2020. In 2021, the fourth-generation HBM3 was successfully developed, and it will be mass-produced in 2022. The NVIDIA H100 is paired with SK hynix's fourth-generation HBM3 for high-bandwidth memory. That's natural. Looking back, AMD's fate is indeed tumultuous. HBM technology was first proposed, but because attempts in the graphics card field were unsuccessful, he almost gave up on this technology. Finally, NVIDIA took advantage of the AI era and found a big bargain, picked the fruits of someone else's victory. NVIDIA can be said to have, with the support of HBM technology, driving AI chip A100. The sales of H100 have taken off, greatly consolidated my position in the field of AI computing. After discussing so much about the situation abroad, what is the level of high bandwidth memory HBM in China? Do you have the ability to localize? Let's just put it bluntly, in China, compared to NVIDIA's AI chips, especially those that can benchmark training data, only Huawei. Let's start with the rise of 990 released by Huawei in 2019. From publicly available images, it can be seen that this chip uses HBM and Core NPU packaging together, become a whole big chip. 910 was issued in 2019. At that time, TSMC is still able to leave chips for Huawei. It is possible to use the ECOVAX packaging process. Specifically, regarding HBM itself, at that time, the HBM2E had the best performance. SK Hynix can also provide. Afterwards, TSMC cannot reserve chips for Huawei. SK Hynix is also unable to continue supplying HBM. Meanwhile, for a long time in China, almost no news of the progress of the ascent can be heard. The official website even removed relevant product introductions. It can be considered a silent state. Among them, the domestic substitution of HBM is the top priority for technological breakthroughs. Longkodo has been conducting industry research for many years, fully aware of the difficulties involved. Nowadays, the United States is aggressively suppressing China's semiconductor industry, from raw materials, from multiple perspectives and dimensions of semiconductor equipment. The situation in China is not easy, but it's not just about sitting idly by. At the end of the day, technology is all done by people. The so-called blockade cannot be blocked. Take the manufacturing of HBM as an example. The whole process doesn't seem simple. It is indeed complex to do, but it's not that we have nowhere to start. Firstly, tell me how to handle the particles. This is not a regular drag particle, but specifically for making particles for HBM. This is considered a matter for memory enterprises. Abroad, there are SK Hynix, Samsung, Magnesia Light, etc. We have Hefei Changxing in China, Fujian Jinhua et al., as introduced in the previous video of Longkodo. In the field of memory, domestic enterprises have basically caught up. The gap with the advanced level abroad is only about 3 years, mainly due to late research and development time. There are no technical barriers or thresholds. Speaking of memory, you can follow a Shenzhen enterprise called Shenwixu, established in 2022. It is specialized in the design and production of storage chips. The most famous person before this company was its chief strategy officer, led by Japanese Nobuo Sakamoto. This Japanese friend, formerly the president of Japanese semiconductor storage chip giant Erbita. I have over 30 years of experience in the field of DRAM. For over a decade, we have been fighting against the United States. The experience of South Korea's joint suppression and killing, faced with the surrender of the Japanese industry and politics. After retiring, the old man became a shining star in China's startup industry. To say how decisive it can be, it's hard to say either, and unfortunately, Nobuo Sakamoto passed away in February this year, but in recent years, it has definitely been of great help to St. Vixu. What about this matter? Mainly to explain, the American industrial chain seems to have a clear division of labor arrangement, but there have always been challengers. There has always been a group of industry professionals pursuing an independent development path. Speaking of the DRAM particles, how to do another technical point. It's just the packaging process. TSMC is proud of its horizontal packaging technology. Over the years, it has also been touted as a unique weapon. Very impressive, but objectively speaking, the packaging process of HBM is not only done by TSMC, Samsung from South Korea also has it. For NVIDIA, in the past, choosing to bind with TSMC in the American industry chain, it is its consistent strategy. TSMC is relatively a specialized OEM manufacturing enterprise. Stable shipment capability. The price can also be kept low enough. It can help NVIDIA maximize its commercial benefits. However, the packaging process of memory particles, Samsung in South Korea also has it. Of course, the process is different. The final effect, the yield may also be different, but it cannot be said only TSMC can do this job of packaging. Other homes are not suitable. Similarly, it cannot be said that only TSMC, Samsung can do it. Chinese companies cannot do it. Recently, there is news. Huawei leads the HBM project. The design comes from Huawei. The film is from Jinhua. Fujian, Shen Weixu is responsible for sealing and testing. Handed over to Shengyi Jinwei, Chengdian Microelectronics. However, this news is actually just a matter of reading. This is a habitual guess by foreign media. Starting from the second half of last year, there have been rumors circulating about the Huawei Ascend 910, various messages about B920. Anyway, there are different opinions seen shrouded in mist. The United States is also curious. We also sent reporters to China to investigate. I wrote a bunch of meaningful articles. There is also a question about who the domestic HBM packaging technology company is. What about imitation? In order to find the answer to the failed blockade, take great care. During this period, Huawei has been announcing to the public that it can provide domestically produced alternative AI chips. It can provide an autonomous and controllable dual-release base. If Li-Tech Baidu purchased items such as 3, 6, and 0,